This video continues our discussion of expectancy theory and then moves it forward by moving into some other theories. So let's take this image of expectancy theory again. We've got expectancy, instrumentality, and valence. And one of the things I want to point out about expectancy theory is that it builds on reinforcement theory. Reinforcement theory said that we could control what people do and don't do, the behaviors that people choose to do or not do, by manipulating the consequences. Expectancy theory builds on that by saying, well, yeah, okay, we can control what people do and don't do, sure. But we also, the emphasis in expectancy theory isn't so much on what people do or don't do. It's on how well people do what they do. So that's the performance piece. So reinforcement theory really isn't about performance per se. It's not about how well you do something. It's more about just whether you do it or not. Expectancy theory says, let's build on that to say, because in a workplace, we don't just care about the behaviors that people do or don't do. We care about how well they do them. That's that other piece of performance. So expectancy theory builds that into this whole idea to say that I can not only influence you to choose certain behaviors, but I can also influence the quality that you produce on those behaviors and the effort that you put into those behaviors by linking outcomes. So this performance outcome piece is built on reinforcement theory. So one question that we can ask about expectancy theory is, okay, so we know that valence is important. We know that a person is going to be more motivated when they expect there's going to be an outcome linked to their performance, and that is an outcome that they really value. So really valuing that outcome is the valence piece. So we could ask the question, what affects valence? What affects why is it that some people value some outcomes and not others, and other people value different outcomes? Well, we said originally that motivation was really at its core about an unsatisfied need. And people do things to address unsatisfied needs. That's where motivation, the basic energy and drive, comes from. So needs theory is really relevant here to understand how needs work, to understand how people are motivated. And needs theory really factors into particularly the valence piece of expectancy theory. So you may have seen like Maslow's hierarchy of needs before. This is a simpler version of that, basically. But the idea here is that people have various types of needs. Here, in this case, 3 levels of needs. And the lower order needs, the ones at the bottom of the pyramid, are called existence needs. Now, lower order doesn't mean that they're less important. It just means that they're more foundational and they're less complex. They're more basic. So our existence needs are things like hunger, our need to eat, and our need to drink water and be safe, and shelter and security, those kinds of things. The basic survival needs, existence needs as it's called here. And so those are our most primary needs. And then we have some needs that are a little bit higher order than that, which are our social needs. Our need for connection and belonging and relationship and intimacy and being a part of something, things like that. And then finally, at the top of this hierarchy, we have growth needs. And growth needs could be sense of fulfillment, sense of accomplishment, sense of, achievement, self-actualization, whatever. Things that are about our own development, cognitively, spiritually, things like that. So the idea of needs theory is that because there's these 3 levels of needs, it means that, well, first of all, it basically means that the lower order need, the lower a need is relative to the other one, the more precedence it tends to take. So when you're hungry, that's what dominates. You got to address that. That's going to take over. But when you've satisfied that need, and you don't have to worry about that, then you'll focus on something else. So in the United States, we're pretty, most people, I shouldn't say everyone, but most of us watching this video, if not all of us watching this video, don't worry every day how we're going to feed ourselves. That's not a major concern. So we don't worry about a lot of our existence needs on a day-to-day basis, like I said, most of us. So if we don't, then we're not going to be driven by existence needs very much. It's not that they're unimportant, and it's not that we still don't want to make a living for ourselves. It's just that because those needs are somewhat under control, we can orient our attention to higher level needs. But suddenly, if you lose your job and you suddenly have no way to provide for yourself, for your family, for your basic needs, that's going to take much more importance than, let's say, reading a self-help book on how to improve your personality. But if you have other needs satisfied, maybe you do have time to think about how to better yourself and how to grow yourself and develop. So there's a sort of a priority here. The other thing that's important about this is that it says, okay, so at any given time, for any one person, even though we all have the same sets of needs, what's dominant for any one person at any one time is likely to vary. So what's dominant for me in one situation, like maybe existence needs at this particular moment in time. So whereas for somebody else it may be social, or for somebody else it may be growth. And the idea here, the reason this factors into valence, like why I value some outcomes and not others, and other people value different outcomes, is because, well, I'm going to value outcomes that are most in line with my area of greatest need. And I'm not going to be so motivated or interested in outcomes that don't address that need. And so that difference in how we each experience our needs and what any need is driving us at any given time means that we're going to be receptive to different kinds of outcomes. And so as a manager, one of the things that I would want to try to do, if I want to motivate people, an implication of this is that I'd like to know what drives each person. And I can't assume that it's the same thing that drives everyone. Different things motivate different people. Right? So if different things motivate different people, I need to know something about what motivates you. And it's hard to figure this out. I can't just come out and say all the time, well, tell me, what do you really need? Because people may not know, they may not want to talk about it. So I have to be, I can't just expect it to be explicitly told to me. I have to pay attention to people. I have to notice what tends to draw their attention. I have to notice what they have and have not responded well to in the past on an individual basis. I have to know, like maybe I could look and see what do they decorate their cubicle with? And does that give me any clues as to what's really important to this person? And can I use that information to figure out how best to motivate this particular individual? And so it's a really customized thing that we need to know about our individual employees. If I really want to be effective in motivating, I have to be willing to customize my approach to different people. Now there can be some problems with that, as we'll talk about when we get into equity theory. But from this perspective, that's a good strategy. Okay, and as with other aspects of expectancy theory too, you can't necessarily come right out and say it. An employee is not necessarily going to say to you, well, yeah, I know this outcome is in it for me, but I don't value it. Or I don't see what's in it for me. Or I don't believe I can do it. People aren't necessarily going to reveal their beliefs from expectancy theory. Again, you have to infer this in many cases. You have to go out there, pay attention to people, listen to people, observe people, which is challenging because you have other responsibilities to do as well. And you have to gain that knowledge. If you're able to gain that knowledge, you can be more effective as a manager in how you motivate.